Welcome to the most beautiful landscapes in the world. Where each destination is not just a striking frame, but the result of millions of years of geological processes and cultural adaptation. From the active Mount Bromo, the Alps uplifted by tectonic plate collisions, to Halong Bay formed from karst submerged beneath the sea, each place carries its own distinct formation mechanism. These harsh conditions have shaped ways of life. The Tengur people perform rituals to the volcano. Alpine residents build villages according to slope gradients. And humans navigate by boat through a maze of limestone islands. Travel, therefore, is not just about going and seeing, but about learning how to move according to the terrain, climbing, diving, crossing, or adapting. And this journey begins where the Earth is still most visibly in motion. Mount Bromo, Indonesia. It is an active volcanic crater located within the Vishal Tengur caldera, which spans approximately 10 kilometers in diameter. This collapsed caldera structure forms a vast sea of sand covering about 5,300 hectares, where Bromo becomes the visual focal point as the entire surrounding landscape is lowered. Bromo remains active with small but continuous eruptions. From the crater, columns of whitish-gray smoke containing SO2 rise tens of meters into the air, sometimes accompanied by fine ash drifting with the wind and settling across the sand sea. When gas pressure increases, short bursts of ash eruptions may occur, creating powerful breathing episodes of the volcano, low rumbling sounds, slight tremors, and jets of hot gas surging from beneath the surface, indicating that magma remains close to the top. During periods of heightened activity, hot ash and volcanic materials can fall onto surrounding areas, igniting the sparse, dry vegetation along the caldera's rim. At times crossing natural boundaries and advancing toward Tengur villages located along the edge of the caldera, creating scattered small fires among settlements, a stark reminder of human vulnerability in the face of geological forces. From viewpoints at around 2,300 meters, visitors descend into the sandy basin and then climb approximately 250 steps up to the crater rim. The change in elevation is not extreme, but creates a distinct sense of transitioning between layers. Temperatures range from 5 to 10 degrees Celsius, accompanied by strong winds typical of highland environments. A space where the Earth itself continues to breathe gradually closes, opening the next chapter shaped by terrains uplifted through tectonic plate collisions. Swiss Alps, Switzerland. Formed by the collision between the Eurasian and African plates over more than 30 million years, creating a young, rising mountain range with highly fragmented terrain and steep slopes. Ancient glacial processes carved deep U-shaped valleys, glacial lakes, and ice systems. This terrain structure defines the entire tourism experience vertically. Movement is not only horizontal, but a continuous change in elevation from villages at around 1,000 meters to observation peaks above 3,000 meters within just a few hours, thanks to modern cable cars and mountain railways. The climate stratifies by altitude, creating distinct types of tourism. Long winters with thick snow transform the region into a skiing paradise, while summer opens up more than 65,000 kilometers of trails for activities such as mountaineering, hiking, and paragliding. Natural landscapes also change clearly with elevation from conifer forests at mid-altitudes to alpine grasslands above 2,000 meters. Wildlife such as mountain goats and marmots have adapted to the steep terrain and harsh climate. As a result, local lifestyles and culture have also developed. In adaptation to mountainous terrain, villages are concentrated in valleys to avoid avalanches. Houses have steep roofs to prevent snow accumulation, and the economy combines high-altitude agriculture with tourism. The snow-covered peaks gradually fade behind, giving way to a world of towering rock formations with a surreal appearance. Zhangjiajie, China, possesses a structure of quartz sandstone pillars, a rare type of terrain formed over more than 300 million years from ancient marine sediments, later uplifted and heavily eroded by water, wind, and weathering processes. The result is more than 3,000 vertical rock pillars, many of which are 200 to 300 meters high, even exceeding 1,000 meters when measured from the valley floor, creating a three-dimensional space that nearly breaks the rules of conventional terrain. Unlike massive mountains or continuous ranges, each pillar exists as an independent unit, causing perspectives to constantly change with every step. The phenomenon of dense fog, with average humidity above 80% and more than 200 foggy days per year, is not just a climatic factor, but also a visual tool. It hides the bases of the pillars, making the rock peaks appear as if they are floating. This vertically fragmented structure also determines how humans access the terrain. Instead of climbing along slopes, a 326-meter outdoor elevator and kilometer-long cable car systems are built to move through space, reducing elevation differences while preserving the visual experience. Glass bridges such as the Zhangjiajie Glass Bridge, 430 meters long and suspended at nearly 300 meters high, are not just tourist constructions, but also a way to directly exploit the deep void sensation of the terrain. The mist gradually obscures the vertical rock pillars, and the flow of water begins to shape the next landscape. Niagara Falls, Canada. possesses an enormous water flow and a continuously eroding mechanism of a geologically young waterfall system. The falls were formed around 12,000 years ago, when the last glacier retreated, leaving a flow from Lake Erie down to Lake Ontario. Currently, the average flow reaches about 2,400 cubic meters per second and can increase to more than 5,700 cubic meters per second during peak seasons, making it one of the most powerful waterfalls in the world. The entire scenic value is defined by water energy. As massive volumes of water continuously plunge downward, they create a dense mist rising tens of meters into the air, causing visibility to change from minute to minute. The sound reaches up to 90 decibels at close range, enough to completely drown out human voices, creating an overwhelming sensory experience. This same force of water also causes the falls to retreat upstream at an average rate of about 90 centimeters per year historically, though it has now slowed due to flow control. The intense sound and movement of water gradually settle, leading into a space where rock and sea interweave into a natural labyrinth. Ha Long Besser, Vietnam. Features a submerged limestone karst terrain, the result of more than 20 million years of limestone dissolution combined with sea level fluctuations during the Quaternary period. Instead of typical land-based karst, this is a system of about 2,000 limestone islands rising from the water across more than 1,550 square kilometers, forming a three-dimensional landscape within the sea. The rise in sea level has cut through karst formations, turning valleys into bays and mountain peaks into islands, creating a rare structure known as marine karst. From this geological foundation, the entire experience is shaped horizontally rather than vertically. There are no dominant peaks, but countless scattered rock formations that constantly fragment the view. This creates a spatial maze effect every time a boat changes direction. A completely new composition appears. Caves such as Sung Sat Cave or Thien Kong Cave are actually hollow interiors within karst formations, created by CO2-rich rainwater dissolving limestone, then later uplifted above current sea level. This fragmented structure also determines how humans access the area. Boats are the primary means of transport, moving slowly to adapt to the dense terrain. At the same time, enclosed waters between islands create calm seas with minimal waves, even though the area lies offshore. The fragmented space between water surfaces gradually expands, leading the experience into a world where life itself constructs its own structure. The Great Barrier Reef, Australia. This is not a static geological entity, but a massive biological structure continuously built by living organisms, primarily corals. Stretching more than 2,300 kilometers along the northeast coast of Australia, consisting of about 2,900 coral reefs and 900 islands. This system formed over the past 8,000 years after sea levels stabilized following the last ice age. Corals depend on symbiotic algae called zooxanthellae for photosynthesis, so they only thrive at depths under 30 meters, where sunlight can still penetrate. This explains why visitors must dive or snorkel to truly see the reefs. The ideal water temperature ranges around 29 degrees Celsius, and even a prolonged increase of just 1 to 2 degrees Celsius can cause widespread coral bleaching. Coral reefs act as natural barriers, reducing up to 97% of wave energy before it reaches the shore, protecting coastlines from erosion. And the clear blue water layer gradually closes behind, giving way to a deep cross-section into millions of years of Earth's history. The Grand Canyon, United States. A rare, open geological cross-section where nearly 2 billion years of Earth's history are exposed through stacked rock layers. The Colorado River is the central force over approximately 5 to 6 million years. It has carved through the Colorado Plateau, creating a massive canyon on a geological time scale. The entire landscape is defined by clear stratification. Each rock layer has different colors and resistance, from Kaibab limestone at the top to Vishnu metamorphic rock at the bottom, forming steep cliffs alternating with sloping surfaces. To travel from the rim to the base and back, visitors may need 1 to 2 days of trekking, with temperature differences of up to 20 degrees Celsius between top and bottom. This creates a paradox. A space that appears vast becomes difficult to access vertically. The layers of rock recording time gradually fade away, opening into an environment where harsh climate becomes the dominant factor. Sahara Desert, Morocco. This is the largest desert in the world, covering about 9.2 million square kilometers, formed by subtropical high-pressure zones that cause dry air to sink, preventing clouds and rainfall. Average rainfall in many areas is below 100 millimeters per year, and in some places, rain may not fall for years, while solar radiation is extremely high, creating day-night temperature differences of up to 30 degrees Celsius. Sand dunes ergs such as Erg Chebi can reach heights of up to 180 meters and continuously move several meters each year under the influence of wind. However, sand only accounts for about 20% of the Sahara's surface. The rest consists of exposed rock, hamada, and gravel reg. This creates terrain diversity within an environment that appears monotonous. The dunes ripple like frozen ocean waves, constantly changing color from pale yellow to burnt orange and deep red depending on the sunlight at different moments. From this, the nomadic lifestyle of the Berber people emerged as an adaptation strategy, moving according to scarce water sources and using camels capable of traveling dozens of kilometers without drinking water. They are also part of the beauty of this place, with long camel caravans across the sand forming an iconic image of the Sahara. The vast expanse of sand and wind gradually disappears, replaced by a land sculpted from soft material over time. Cappadocia, Turkey. Possesses a unique geological material. Soft volcanic tuff formed from ash and lava of ancient volcanic eruptions about 4 million years ago. After that, wind and water eroded it unevenly, creating thousands of fairy chimneys, tall rock columns with harder caps protecting the softer body below. Each valley is a natural geometric complex where rock columns, ravines, and caves intertwine, forming a complex three-dimensional space at a scale directly accessible to humans. This explains why the experience here is more about moving through rather than observing from afar. Visitors can enter inside the rock formations instead of only viewing their surfaces. The softness of tuff also leads to an important consequence: humans can directly modify the terrain without complex technology. Thousands of years ago, inhabitants carved deeply into the rock to create homes, churches, and even multi-level underground cities such as Derinkuyu Underground City, which could accommodate up to 20,000 people and extend more than 60 meters deep. This was not only a residential solution, but also a defensive strategy and an adaptation to harsh climate conditions. From here, the imprint of humans and nature on stone gradually closes, giving way to clear evidence of the destructive and regenerative power of volcanoes. Santorini, Greece. The entire island is the remnant of a collapsed volcanic crater caldera formed after the Minoan eruption around 1600 BC. The explosion caused the central part to collapse, creating a basin about 12 kilometers wide and hundreds of meters deep, now filled with seawater. The steep cliffs up to 300 meters high surrounding the caldera are the living cross-section of this process. Unlike typical islands that open outward to the ocean, Santorini turns its back outward and concentrates all visual value toward the inner basin. Towns such as Oya and Fira are built to take advantage of the steep terrain, forming layered structures that ensure nearly every location has an unobstructed view. Many beaches here have black or red sand due to basalt and volcanic materials, instead of typical white sand. A landscape formed from collapse gradually fades, opening to a place where humans utilize challenging terrain to create remarkable achievements. Machu Picchu, Peru. A city built on a narrow ridge at an altitude of about 2,430 meters, located between two mountain peaks and almost entirely surrounded by the deep bend of the Urubamba River. This terrain is not only difficult to access, but also creates a natural fortress, where three sides are nearly vertical cliffs, making intrusion almost impossible. Around 200 structures here were not built on flat ground, but anchored into the mountain slope through more than 700 agricultural terraces. These terraces were not only used for farming, but also played a role in drainage, reducing rainfall pressure. As a result, the structures have remained stable for hundreds of years without landslides. The geographical isolation also shapes the experience. There is no direct road access, and the traditional approach is trekking along the approximately 43-kilometer Inca Trail, making the journey itself an inseparable part of the experience. Architecture blending into the mountains gradually closes, leading to a landscape shaped by ice, the remnants of a glacial past. Banff National Park, Canada. During the last ice age about 20,000 years ago, massive glaciers, hundreds of meters thick, moved across Banff National Park, eroding and carving the terrain to create U-shaped valleys, steep cliffs, and numerous glacial lakes. When the ice melted, water accumulated in these basins, forming famous lakes such as Lake Louise and Moraine Lake. The turquoise color of these lakes is not due to reflection of the sky, but to rock flour, extremely fine particles created when glaciers grind rock. These particles remain suspended in the water, scattering blue light, especially noticeable in summer when glacial melt intensifies. This explains why the water color changes with the seasons and glacial flow. Due to the highly fragmented terrain, roads such as the Icefields Parkway, about 230 kilometers long, are not just transportation routes, but also observation axes, passing through numerous glacial valleys and viewpoints. Elevation differences from 1,300 meters to over 3,000 meters within a short distance create continuous observation points for visitors, where each turn reveals a different geological structure. The traces of glaciers gradually give way to a system where water continues to divide and reshape space in a different manner. Iguazu Falls, Argentina. is a waterfall with a fragmented waterfall system on an extremely large scale. Instead of a single waterfall, this place consists of about 275 smaller falls stretching nearly 2.7 kilometers along the Iguazu River. The terrain was formed from layers of volcanic basalts stacked about 135 million years ago, later fractured and unevenly eroded, creating numerous parallel and interwoven waterfall edges. Each waterfall has its own flow and shape, but together they form a continuous system with an average total flow of about 1,756 cubic meters per second, which can triple during the rainy season. The most extreme point of the system is Devil's Throat, a U-shaped gorge about 150 meters wide and 700 meters long, where most of the water converges and plunges downward with the greatest force, creating a mist column up to 150 meters high. The layered basalt structure also explains the stepped shape of the falls. The hard rock layer above acts as a roof, while the softer layer below is eroded more quickly, causing the waterfall edges to retreat continuously over time. This creates a slow but ongoing transformation of the entire system. Kilometers of walkways and wooden bridges allow visitors to approach right up to the edge of the falls, where they can directly feel the energy of the water and the nearly saturated humidity. The system of hundreds of waterfalls gradually closes, opening into a narrow space where water does not spread widely, but instead cuts deeply into the rock. Antelope Canyon, United States, is a narrow slot canyon formed by short but extremely powerful flash floods. Antelope Canyon is located on the Navajo Sandstone Plateau. Over tens of thousands of years, this process has created winding stone corridors where the width can be as narrow as 2 meters while the walls rise up to 40 meters high. Unlike canyons formed by large rivers with clear cross-sections, Antelope Canyon represents flow-carved sculpture, where every surface is rounded and twisted according to the direction of past water flow. The upper canyon walls receive direct sunlight, while the canyon floor remains in shadow, causing the sandstone to shift in color from bright orange to deep red across layers. Visitors can only access the canyon through guided tours managed by the Navajo people, due to the risk of flash floods that can occur within minutes after rainfall in distant areas. The winding rock corridors gradually fade behind, giving way to a massive ecosystem operating like a natural machine. The Amazon Rainforest, Brazil. Formed over millions of years through the evolution of a humid tropical climate and the expansion of the Amazon River basin after the Andes Mountains rose, completely altering the direction of water flow toward the Atlantic Ocean. This process created a closed ecosystem where forest and water co-develop and sustain each other. Billions of trees continuously release water vapor, forming flying rivers in the atmosphere, transporting moisture across South America. As a result, the forest nearly sustains its own life, a rare ecosystem operating almost independently of external water sources. River levels change dramatically with the seasons, varying by 10 to 15 meters, transforming the forest into two entirely different worlds during the dry season. It becomes a network of forest trails, while in the rainy season, it turns into a system of waterways. Visitors therefore experience two completely different modes of exploration, walking through the ecosystem or navigating by boat through flooded canopies. Within this natural system, indigenous communities have lived for thousands of years with lifestyles closely tied to water cycles. Stilts houses, floating villages, hunting-gathering practices, and spiritual beliefs centered around the forest. Culture here is inseparable from nature, forming unique stories, rituals, and indigenous knowledge. A system where water does not only flow, but also flies gradually closes, leading to a landscape that combines ice and sea in a unique structure. The Norwegian Fjords, Norway. Formed during the Ice Age, when massive glaciers hundreds of meters thick moved slowly but continuously, carving deeply into the land over tens of thousands of years. When the climate warmed, the ice melted and seawater flooded these valleys, creating the majestic fjord system, where the sea penetrates deep into the mountains. Fjords such as Sognefjord, about 205 kilometers long and more than 1,300 meters deep, create a distinctive landscape with cliffs rising up to 1,500 meters, enclosing deep and narrow waters. The nearly vertical relationship between mountains and sea creates an overwhelming sense of scale, where humans feel small within nature. Due to the highly fragmented terrain, traditional transportation is limited, and people have long adapted by living in connection with the sea. Small villages are nestled along the fjords in rare flat areas, forming a culture closely tied to fishing, seafaring, and exploration, the foundation of the famous Viking history. The tourism experience here is a journey through landscapes. Visitors travel by boat or ferry, weaving through fjord branches, where each turn reveals waterfalls cascading from hundreds of meters high or small villages hidden at the mountain base. Additionally, high viewpoints such as Preikestolen or Trolltunga provide panoramic perspectives where the beauty of the fjords can be fully appreciated from above. The towering cliffs beside deep waters gradually fade away, opening a journey toward the highest point, where human limits are challenged. Mount Everest, Nepal. Located at an altitude of 8,848.86 meters, the highest peak on Earth. Everest was formed through tens of millions of years of collision between the Indian and Eurasian plates, when the floor of an ancient ocean was pushed upward into massive mountain ranges. This process has not stopped, causing the Himalayas to continue rising over time, creating a living symbol of an Earth still in motion. For the people of Nepal, it is Sagarmatha, forehead of the sky, while for Tibetans, it is Chomolungma, mother of the world. The mountain is closely tied to spiritual beliefs, reverence for nature, and rituals before each expedition. At altitudes above 8,000 meters, the environment becomes so harsh that humans cannot survive for long. Therefore, climbing Everest is not a continuous ascent, but a prolonged process of acclimatization, establishing intermediate camps for the body to adapt to altitude. Tourism at Everest is not only for professional climbers. Trekking to base camp has become a popular experience, taking visitors through Sherpa villages, ancient monasteries, and dramatic mountain routes. The extreme altitude gradually fades behind, giving way to a land where energy from deep within the earth is still quietly active. Yellowstone National Park, United States. This entire area is a supervolcano that is currently dormant, with a massive magma chamber located only about 5 to 10 kilometers beneath the surface. 3 major eruptions have created calderas tens of kilometers wide, with the most recent one about 640,000 years ago forming the current structure. The residual heat from this magma system is the energy source sustaining more than 10,000 geothermal features, accounting for over 50% of the world's total. Energy outlets are densely distributed. Hot springs, acidic pools, mud pots, and especially geysers such as Old Faithful operate in cycles due to the buildup of water and steam pressure underground. Old Faithful can erupt up to 30 to 55 meters high, with intervals of about 90 minutes, reflecting the dynamic balance between heat and pressure beneath the surface. This geothermal system also determines the distinctive colors of many pools. As water temperature decreases outward from the center, different heat-resistant microorganisms develop. This is not just a visual effect, but a living heat map of the area. Visitors can only walk along designated wooden paths, as the thin crust beneath may collapse or contain boiling water. This is a place where energy from deep within the earth is directly released and visible to the naked eye. The signs of underground heat gradually disappear, opening into an ecosystem where life must constantly move in order to survive. Serengeti National Park, Tanzania. This is an ecosystem driven by the uneven distribution of rainfall and food sources. The entire Serengeti Mara region spans about 30,000 square kilometers, but rainfall varies significantly across space from south to north, creating mismatched timing in grass growth. This mismatch forces more than 1.5 million wildebeest, along with hundreds of thousands of zebras and other antelope species, to continuously migrate in a loop of about 1,000 kilometers each year. This migration also shapes the food chain. Predators such as lions, hyenas, and crocodiles concentrate along migration routes, especially at river crossings like the Mara River, where thousands of animals must cross under dangerous conditions. As a result, the tourism experience is not about finding a fixed scenic spot, but about following a process. A landscape driven by movement gradually closes, leading to a final destination where everything is still being formed day by day by water and minerals. Pamukkale, Turkey. Formed by the precipitation of minerals from calcium-rich hot water, gradually accumulating over thousands of years to create bright white travertine terraces. The entire Pamukkale system stretches about 2.7 kilometers and rises about 160 meters, consisting of hundreds of tiered pools. The stable mineral water source also led to the development of the ancient city of Hierapolis just above. The Romans utilized the hot water to build public bath systems, turning the area into a healing center more than 2,000 years ago. This shows that the value of Pamukkale lies not only in its landscape, but also in the direct relationship between geology and human activity. Visitors must walk barefoot and are only allowed access to certain areas in order to protect the ongoing mineral deposition process, the core element that forms the entire landscape. Looking back at the entire journey, the common point of these places does not lie in their surface beauty, but in the underlying processes that created them, water silently carving over millions of years, tectonic plates lifting entire oceans into mountain peaks, or climate cycles forcing life to move in order to survive. When understanding the operating mechanisms behind them, each landscape is no longer a static picture, but becomes an ongoing story where time, matter, and energy continuously interact. Therefore, the true value of travel does not lie in how many places you have visited, but in how much you have understood about them. A waterfall, a desert, and a mountain, all are the result of larger, more complex systems that are worth exploring more deeply. If these perspectives help you see the world a little more clearly, Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so we can continue exploring more fascinating destinations together.